Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Cars and Coffee with me, Kenny Brown, where a lot of car guys come to get real solid information on performance in their cars. We talk about a lot of things, and we have had people tell me that, what I talk about on Saturday mornings and also in like our workshops in the Academy, you can't get that information anywhere else. So I'm glad you could join us this morning, which means you have a hunger to learn about things. And this morning, what we're going to talk about, I got to switch my encouragement at my desk here to switch things around. This morning's going to be kind of a cool episode. We'll talk a little bit about winterizing cars. I mean, everybody is like pretty sad that there was a really truncated track season or driving season. And a lot of people are putting their cars up. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about things you can do if you put your car up for the winter, even if you don't put your car up for the winter. And then, of course, we're going to answer some of your questions that we get. And I'm going to answer one of the questions right away. Randy Cotton asked, will you be starting up a new speed therapy academy in the future? Glad you asked. The answer is yes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And we actually have some special guests with us this morning. We have a few of our graduates from the inaugural Kenny Brown Speed Therapy Academy. That they're here to tell you about their experience. We'll get to them in a few minutes, but let's talk about winterizing. Oh, this month's I forgot about that. So let me turn this. Okay, this month we've got another Nicholas Watt piece. I mean, I'm a big fan of his. I got quite a few of those, and this is the All-American Victory. This is. Let's see, this is AJ Foyt and Dan Gurney, followed in Chaparral by Phil Hill. And this is, what is the date? 1967. I should have known that. And it's signed by the author, Phil Hill, and Dan Gurney. And so that's kind of a good one. Nice big red car that's going fast. Okay, switch it around, and there we go. Of course, I'm joined by my old toolbox that kind of differentiates me from a lot of other people. That's how I made my living for a very long time. That's why I know so much about cars. And we let's do a question. Hertzfer has a question. We'll do that before the winterizing. And Hertzfer is one of our is a graduate of the inaugural Speed Therapy Academy, and he actually is in Bulgaria. So he was getting up at like 2 o'clock every morning for 14 weeks, several times a week for the academy, and never missed a one. But his question is, he's got S550. The flex pipe broke, and the flex pipe is with the catalytic converter. So what are my options? I think either replace long tube headers, high flow cats, catback exhaust. What do I do with my track cars? Well, I think the big thing, I know the European regulations are a lot stricter than the over here. So I think you might want to check with that. If it's possible, what I would do is get a X pipe with high flow cats and like a high performance exhaust all the way back. If you do that and don't do headers, then typically you don't have to do a retune on the car. So I mean, I'll have Rich check on Monday and see if that package is available. I know we've got them for other cars. I haven't looked at the 550s yet, but I mean that would be my direction: is get an X pipe with high flow cats, so you can still pass emissions, but you reduce a lot of restriction. And if you put long tube headers on, you're going to make more power, but you're also going to need to do a retune on the car. So that's a couple of ways to look at it, but. Yeah, check your regulations. If you can change to high flow cats, I would do it. It's just a better option because you're on track and you're pushing a lot of exhaust through the cats, and the high flow cats are going to be much better for you in your application. So, okay, there's the questions out of the way, one more. Dino wants to know, do I prefer a staggered or a square setup? Now, what he's talking about is tires. Square setup would be all same tires on all four wheels. Staggered would be different tires on all four wheels. And the answer is both. Okay, for like street performance cars that don't have buckets of power, I really like a square setup. And to me, that's 19 by 10 inch wheels in all four corners and 285/35 19s for tires. That's a really nice setup for a Mustang. Plus, if it's square, you can rotate tires if you want. If for like Coyote cars, when we get them set up for track, we'll run a little more tire in the back. I'll run like a 290, either 285/35. I'll put first a 1910 on the front, 1911 on the back, and either a 285/35 or 295/30 on the front, and then on the back run a 305/30, and that's pretty good. When we do that, though, on track cars, I'll increase the spring rate a little bit in the back, just to help balance the car out. So yeah, I do both stagger and square, and just depends on the application. And we've been doing square on like SM95 for years with 285s, 285/35. 285/35, we call it. It's a taller tire, and in my opinion, Mustangs like tall tires. Okay, let's get into winterizing. It's like sad when the season comes to an end, and for people that are putting their cars up for the winter. I know people with Mustangs in northern climates can't drive in the winter, so they store them. I mean, there's a number of things you can do. Exactly what you do is kind of up to you. But things you can think about. Now, some people like to put the car on jack stands so that it's off the tires. That's fine. If it sits on the ground on the tire, some people say, "Oh, that's bad because the tires get flat." Well, they don't get flat; they just kind of get squished on one side from sitting. But when you start driving again, so they get some heat into them, they get round. So I mean, it's not a huge deal, but there's nothing wrong with putting car up on jack stands. And also, here's some things that I do. I would make sure the gas tank is full. If you're putting the car up in the winter, make sure the gas tank is full with some fuel stabilizer in it. The reason for that, you don't want moisture to build up in the gas tank over the winter, which will, if it's almost empty, that will happen. And then also change your oil, put fresh oil in it. Because again, you want fresh oil because cars that sit with oil for a long time have a habit of sometimes creating some acids within the oil that eat on bearings and things. So if you've got fresh oil right going into winter, then that's fine. So that's a couple things. Fresh oil, fill the gas tank up with some fuel stabilizer. Of course, bleed the brakes. Everybody knows I bleed the brakes a lot. Keep some fresh fluid in there again, so you don't have the opportunity for moisture to get into that, because that's kind of like your big enemy over the winter is moisture. And of course, if it's in a garage outside unheated, you want to make sure you've got enough antifreeze in the car to make it through the winter. And if it's a track car, you put antifreeze in the springtime, you drain that all out and put water back in, because water is a much better conductor of heat. Cars with pure water and like a wet water heater will cool a lot better than cars with coolant. So there's a couple of tips I have. If I missed anything, if any of you guys have some other things that you do, why don't you put them in the comment column? Because I'd love to know. I mean, everybody's got a different idea and philosophy on how to put their car up for the winter. And there's not that many things to me, not that many things to pay attention to, but they are important, like the oil and a full tank of gas. And whether it's on jack stands or not is just a personal choice. It's on jack stands, okay? In jack stands, you need my jacking rails, because that way you can jack the car up, put the jacking rail on the side of the car, put the jack stands underneath the pinch weld, and it's easy peasy. You don't have to crawl underneath to find a spot to put the jack stand and have it slip and go through the floor. So, jacking rails are, if you're going to do that, it's almost a must. And it is just such a good upgrade to your cars. So do we have anybody else comments come in on winterizing?
You can kind of look.
Okay, we'll just keep it come in. We'll talk about it later. I'm always interested in what other people do. I mean, I do certain things, but I'm not the end of everything. I listen to other people, see what they do. So anybody else has some thoughts, we'll pull them up later. Okay, we're gonna get back to Randy Cotton's question. Are we going to do another speed therapy in the academy in the future? And the answer is yes. And it's going to start after the first of the year, because I need a rest. We went 14 weeks, 2 to 3 nights a week, plus all of my Saturday cars and coffee. Plus, we're just finishing up a 5-day/6-day workshop. So I need to take my breath and relax. And then after the first of the year, we'll start up, which is a perfect time for the academy, simply because it's like wintertime and people are having car withdrawals. This would be a good way to overcome that. Plus, there's the information that you're going to learn will get you totally prepared for the next season. And we'll have some of our academy people come on and talk about that. But overall, the academy is going to be a 16-week course this time. It was 12 last time and went to 14. I really had a hard time squeezing everything in that I wanted to get in. And I do let's just say I take cars and coffee, and the questions I get there, the things I talk about, we take a deep dive. We call it an immersion session. We'll just immerse ourselves in a specific subject on a specific night, sometimes 2 nights. I think the geometry part took at least 2 nights, I think. Suspension geometry was a big section because I'm pretty good at that stuff. And our guys got to learn things about geometry that nobody else learns. But that's a couple more things before we bring them on. Is we get I got my Speed Therapy Academy shirt on. When you register, you get a Speed Therapy Academy shirt, and you get your Speed Therapy Academy notebook that has sections in there that you can use however you want to download everything we do. All the classes are on PowerPoint, and those live in the resource section so people can download them, 3-hole punch them, and stick them in the folder at the end. A nice little. Let's see, this is Tim's. I picked Tim's because he was on top. The guys are out there. They're going out this week. We're supposed to mail these out earlier, but with the workshop going on this week, we've just gone crazy. So they will be mailed out next week. So if you're looking for yours, it's not in the mail yet, but it will be. Checks in the mail. So that's just a couple of things, but I kind of share things that you're not going to find anywhere else. And we go through the car from the front to the back, all the different components, and then we get to the end, we talk about tuning, adjustments, troubleshooting, and then we have people send in their driving videos, and we all look at driving videos and I critique them, and we talk about that. So, I try to share with people as much as I can, because I've got buckets of experience, over 40 years, a lot of that in professional motorsports. In fact, I forgot to tell you last week. I forgot to say which. No, that was in the academy last night. Thursday night, I forgot to tell people in the academy what shirt I had on that Thursday night, and that was from the workshop. In the workshop, I'm sorry, in the workshop Thursday night, I forgot to tell people what shirt I had on. That was from the 2015 World Challenge season. So with that, I think let's see how our marvelous technology works, and we will bring some of our people on today.
Hey, Tim.
We've got okay. Now we've got Mark, Tim, and Cliff. Mark has an S197 that he's fixing up, and he's doing really well with it. And Cliff has a 2008 FR5 Ford Racing FR500S that we are actually completely overhauling right now, turning into a World Challenge spec FR500S, I guess it'd be /WC World Challenge. And then Joe was supposed to be here, but he isn't. So we have Tim here with us. Jumped in at the last minute, which kind of saved the day. And he has a Fox Mustang. So we had a full range of people in the academy. I thought before, Hurstifer had a GT3 S550. And Joe Johnson was going to be here, but we had some technical issues, and he has a GT350. So,
Hot rod.
More Carrie's writing. Tell me.
There's a ton of other graduates in the.
Oh, we have more graduates in the audience today.
Nice.
Hello and welcome to all our graduates. I guess and you want to know more about the academy, you can reach out to any of the people that have graduated, and I'm sure they'll answer any questions that you want and they'll tell you what they think. So speaking of telling you what they think, there were some questions prepared for me by the producer that we're going to just go through and do some random questions here. Mark, you're up top.
Okay.
So, what made you decide to enroll in the academy?
For me, I'm not really a stranger to driving at speed, but I didn't really understand what it took to make a car faster, like the theory, I guess, behind it. And before I just started spending a lot of money, I figured, I kind of learned the concept behind what makes a car handle, or the things that like the physics behind it. And that's why I signed up. I just wanted to kind of understand what I was doing. And not only that, when I make changes to the car, why is it doing that? So that way I could have a kind of a firmer foundation when I do make changes at the track. So,
Well, I'm sure you learned a lot.
absolutely. Took a lot of notes.
It's
Clifford, Tim, you want to add to that?
okay to chime in here.
Yep.
I joined up because just like Mark, similar. I'd been doing track days pretty heavily, 20 or 22 to 25 a year for 10 years. And all the time, the same exact questions would come up in the paddock. It's colder out this morning. Do I put more air in the tires or less? And everybody in the paddock had a different idea, and nobody knew what they were talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a simple one. I mean, there were other questions about how come my tires always cord on the inside edge? And I thought when I found out that Kenny was doing this, I recognized that Kenny had one heck of a name. And I thought, this guy probably knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to hear from somebody who knows what I should be looking at and what's causing things. And like Mark, all I want to do is get better, quicker, smoother, be tougher to pass,
Yeah.
Tim, do you have anything to add?
Sure. Good morning, all. Well, I have to say that I'm actually honestly more of a street car guy. I like my performance, but I've had my car since 1994, and it's been an evolution. I feel like back then I was buying books that pertain to automotive technology, and I took classes, and I'm actually a college graduate of automotive technology. But I'm a real car guy. I really like performance, but and I like the track like anybody, but I've never felt that I've been in a position where I can fund that budget. So I've been in and out of motorsport through my life, but I think the most interesting thing, and Kenny knows a lot about the cars, the technology, the setup, the best way to approach a situation, I think, and when it comes to track performance, where you want to stop and you want to go and you want to turn a corner and you want to make a fast lap, or if you just want the car to handle properly on the street, don't feel intimidated because you feel like you're not one of the race guys. I think the neatest thing about the program is that Kenny and Kerry both reach out to you and they decide together with you what it is that you want to try to accomplish with your car.
Yeah.
And Kenny gears that program towards you and what it is that you'd like to do. So part of the focus of the class, and a big focus of the class, is incorporating everyone's goals into the what you're learning. So you learn the basics and you learn a lot of Kenny's philosophies, which I think I can't believe I didn't know more about it a little bit sooner, but I've certainly known Kenny's name going back to the 90s, early 90s. It's neat because you learn the tech, you're able to apply it, and Kenny helps you apply it.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a good point. I forgot to mention that when people sign up for the academy, aside from getting a notebook, a cool shirt, and also there's like a lot of stuff that comes in there. Everybody knows how crazy I am about notebooks. I do like a half-hour Zoom session with everybody before. So I kind of try to get to know people and try to start to remember names because I'm absolutely terrible at names. I know a lot about cars, but like around here, the joke is you can ask me anything except part numbers and prices, names I have to work at. So it's good if I start early to learn people's names. Also, what kind of car they have, what they're looking for, and what their goals are. That's kind of like where it starts. And then the actual academy classes are in Zoom. So everybody, it's kind of like this. Everybody's there. It's kind of like a real classroom, and everybody can talk, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it turned out better than I thought it would, because Carrie kind of kept pushing me into that. People want to learn. People want to learn. I said, okay. So that's sort of how it all came about. And we've had like the question this morning, if we want to do another one, and we've had other people ask. So yeah, the answer is yes. Starts after first year, except instead of 12 weeks, they kind of trickled over into 14. We're just going to start at 16 weeks. I'm going to spread things out a little more, because we got pretty compact in the middle there a little bit, trying for me to get everything out. So going down my list of questions, we'll jump down to Cliff. And Cliff, what's the biggest thing you got, or biggest value benefit you got out of the academy?
Well, I'm going to give you a different kind of answer. Probably the biggest value that came from it was that I've certainly got a better understanding of the basics of automotive design, racetrack, race car, good handling street car, Tim, design, and what needs to be there to make it work. But something else that came out of the class was a knowledge or recognition that I needed to know more. And I was willing to not only do the class, but I'm going to follow that up in specific areas to improve my machine, good old number 44. And she can be ornery and she can be good sometimes. And I want to stress the good side. So you've given me the desire to push it farther. I'm not going to end up ever being an engineer, but I'd like to make things the best they can be within a reasonable budget, right, Mark? I mean, the budget's really important.
Yeah.
But the other thing I got out of it too was an appreciation that there is somebody who knows what they're talking about, and all those other people we talked to. I mean, I talked to a lot of people in the paddock asking questions or just feeling them out, and they were often left field. And
Yeah.
And if you listen to them, you'd be tweaking shock absorbers in the wrong direction. And so maybe you shouldn't be moving the shocks at all. But that's the kind of basic understanding. And it was, and I mean, it's kind of sifted in, kind of where we really had I'm not an engineer, and probably there were some engineers in the class, but I had a feeling that if the car is doing something now, I'll be able to say, okay, it's one of these 3 or 4 things, and it's probably number 1 or 2. And that's kind of what came from it. And the other thing that came from it is that all you guys here, Mark and Tim and Joe and all these other guys, we started out, we were just kind of all drivers. We had a common love and passion. But by the time it was over, when we said goodnight for the final time, everybody cared about everybody else.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool because we all had real common connections, Doesn't matter if you're a competitive street guy or a track guy, or like Tim says, some pro, and there weren't any pros. We all had that common link. We all had the same challenges, just at different levels or different speeds. It was pretty cool to see how we came together.
Tim, can you add to that?
Sure. Biggest benefit. Well, I'd say there are many multiples of benefits. I like the fact that, I guess I was saying my car has been an evolution, and I thought for a long time I had it pretty well figured out until this craze of people converting front suspensions to coilover tech with tubular K-arms. There's so much product out there. There's so much information. And my car being an older Fox body, which is an 86, already had a lot of 93 technology and parts and advanced braking systems. But when I started to make that move several years ago, I ran into a lot of problems and I didn't have a lot of help. And although the car's been drivable 90% of the time since I did that conversion, I didn't know enough, and I couldn't find enough information that was good enough to get me on the right track. I feel like I started to get to that point, but there's a lot of information out there. And I think I said that I liked books and magazines back in the 90s and into the 2000s. That's when kind of that stuff started to go away. And now everything is online.
Mm-hmm.
Kids today don't want to read books. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. They go on the forums and everybody's exchanging information. And I've been a part of some of those forums, but it when someone asks a simple question, be it simple, I just mean one question, and you get 75 answers, and they're all a little different. I mean, try to figure that out on a budget. And then they're looking for budget parts. The problem is there's too much, and it's not a lot of it's not very good.
Yeah.
And like I said, I felt like I was going in the right direction. But once I really started to listen and understand Kenny and understand, folks, that if you're a car person, I know a lot of what his experience is geared towards Mustangs, but you can apply a lot of this technology towards any vehicle that you want performance out of. And Kenny knows a lot about other platforms too, but I think it's just the choice platforms of Mustang that he has, gone through the evolution of the Mustangs from late body Fox all the way up to the current S550s. I learned a lot about the newer tech as well and how it compared to the older, but all the geometries changed, the parts changed, technology's changed, and Kenny's shown how that kind of adaptation for what his tech has gone into those vehicles over the years. I just feel like I'm in the right place. I've been in the right place since day one of the class and the Cars and Coffees before that. And it's just been so helpful. And I feel like it's not only that I'm asking a question, I'm getting an answer, but Kenny's right here.
Yep.
Kenny's right here on Saturday morning. I have access to Kenny's team. When I'm ready, I'm just in a spot right now where I'm not, but when I'm ready to apply everything, I feel like I have the support that I need to do it right the first time and if I get something and it's not right, I've got help, and I don't have to go out into the interwebs and search through the garbage piles of information that is credited to what? Thank you, Kenny. I'm going to cut off right there.
Tim, what do you think the biggest value that you got out? Not Tim, Mark. Mark, what's the biggest value? I'm looking at Mark and I say,
I think the biggest thing I got was I call it the University of Google. It can be like you said, it can be too much information, and most of the information isn't good. I remember trying to figure out what was best for the rear end, a Watts link or a Panhard bar. And I mean, these people on the internet get into these heated exchanges, and at the end of the day, it was good to get it from someone who was not only a credible source, but someone who's respected. The people who know who Kenny Brown is, and his knowledge really, I guess, dispelled a lot of the myths or a lot of the bro science that's out there when it comes to making a car faster. And that was for sure the biggest thing I got from it. Just an honest, credible source. And he wasn't trying to sell a product necessarily. I mean, you're in business to make money, but it wasn't his objective. He was really trying to educate us to make our driving experience better. And I think we all appreciated that.
well, thanks. All these guys brought up kind of something I always talk about is like, typically the two worst places to get information is the internet and the paddock. Because people will talk about, they might know something that's this big, and they think that's the gospel. They heard it from their buddy who heard it from his uncle. And they just don't know. And they have conviction because that's what they think. And it's more times than not, it's not really good information. So that's one of the reasons I started Cars and Coffee, and why it developed into the workshops, and now it's developed into the academy is, I got a lot up here, a lot of years and a lot of experience, a lot of mistakes. And, if I can help somebody not make a mistake that's going to cost them something, based on my experience, that's a good thing. We actually had somebody in the, I think the workshop this week, after I talked about brakes, sent in a comment that said, thanked me because he had installed his rotors wrong on his car, and he was going right back out and install them the right way. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for, is to help people. And Carrie is writing a note, which means I'm in trouble or I forgot something.
Ask him about the. You see the
She
camera going?
kicked the lights again.
Okay.
Oh, the
ask him-
master class,
Ask them
yeah.
about the master class. What they thought of that.
Yeah, one of the things that I incorporate is I've got a lot of friends in the industry, a lot of experts, and we through the master classes we would bring in one of my expert friends, and they would talk for maybe 20 minutes, a half hour on their area of expertise, and then we just open it up to questions. You know, it's like it's an open format where all our guys could ask questions, and that seemed to be pretty popular. Cliff, what did you think about the master classes?
Well, I thought it was awesome. Like I said, I'm approaching 200 track days, and probably get to that this year. And so I've been exposed to a lot of supposed experts and supposed great drivers. But I think most of us are pretty similar. Just like Mark said, I never really ran into anybody who really knew what they were talking about. And the master class, you had somebody in there on tires, and we talked about not only construction, but why they worked and what direction you might want to think about going for your own purposes, what your use of the tires are. We had somebody talk about wheels, and we got down to the specifics. Everybody talks about wheel sizes and the manufacturer and what they're made out of, but we actually were talking, and someone asked the question, well, where do I look on a wheel to see where it's going to fail? And how long do I keep a wheel? I mean, do you keep a wheel for 20 years? I'm not so sure. Depends on what you hit, I guess. But we talked about data acquisition. And again, we didn't talk about the things you could purchase to get more and more and more. But we talked about, in the other way, we talked about what minimally do you need in data acquisition to help you and not get lost in the weeds. And I, for one, I know I've got the AIM system on my car, and boy, if you pull all that stuff up, pretty soon you're focused on minutia instead of on, well, what was my speed from this point of the corner to that point of the corner? I mean, there were basic things in data. So the data was great to have a master in there. And we talked about tuning the car. You want to tune for absolute maximum horsepower? What are you doing with the car? And that was a cool thing. I'll revert back to where we started, Kenny. When you started the academy, you started on just like you do on Saturday mornings. What's your goal and what's your budget? And everything has got to be focused. I mean, it's great to dream, but some of those dreams might never happen. So what you got, make the best you can. And that's where you pushed us and what we were headed towards. And the end of the class was cool. Like you said, some people provided videos, and we talked about the driving that they were doing, and you put it all together. And I think that was those 2 sessions were worthwhile. So the master guys were great. I didn't miss one of those classes. And we know, I mean, the Academy graduates know how busy you and the producer, Carrie, must be, because you put out a lot of information.
Yeah, really did.
Yep. And secrets, I would write down in my notebook. Kenny gets excited about something, and he starts moving faster, and he starts talking quick, and Tim's laughing. But when Kenny did that, that was something that was really important. And so I'd write those things down. Little secret like the wider the track on the front of a Mustang, I was looking over here. My book's right here too.
Yeah.
The wider the track, the better. If you can get it wider than the rear, you got a better car. Anyway, Kenny's cool. And we learned a lot more to learn, but Kenny got us started.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mark, what did you think of the master classes?
Yeah, it was it's funny. A lot of that stuff was over my head. I wasn't even sure what questions to ask, but it just gave you an appreciation, really, for the knowledge that these people have and how in depth and just how deep the knowledge goes. I mean, the more you want to learn, the deeper and wider the hole can get. But I think the kind of to go back to what Tim was saying, I think the masterclass about the wheels was the one that stood out the most for me, because that's probably next on my to-do list. But I didn't even know that you could even check to see how a wheel could fatigue or what to look for if it's about to fatigue. Or, I mean, I don't know. It was just so much stuff. I just really appreciated really everything. No, it's worth the price of admission. If anybody's on the fence, just do it. You'll be thankful by the end.
Yeah.
Tim, your thoughts on the master classes?
Yes, I think they're unique experiences to be able to spend some time with someone who's not necessarily trying to sell you anything, because a lot of these folks came from their industry and they were pros in their industries respectively. You know, we learned about safety. We learned about performance driving specifically. You know, unless you go to a SEMA show, which I've never been able to go. Everybody knows the SEMA show, right? In Vegas. That show has just grown exponentially over the years. And even if you go to one of those shows, you learn. You usually talk to a salesperson. I've been to a lot of trade shows in my years, but the idea is with you're learning a little bit about that whole entire industry, whatever it is that they're in, whether safety equipment and gear for your car and for you. Every industry is a lot bigger than you think it is if you isolate that industry. So nobody's going to be an expert on that unless somebody's in that industry specifically. Like Kenny knows a lot, but I think you would always hear him say that, oh, I can never get enough of what this person has to say because there's just so much to know and technology changes. So you get a nice time to hear about that industry specifically, whatever it is. I was looking through my notes. Performance plumbing, that was another one. Wheels and tires was very interesting, like Mark said. And I wouldn't expect this schedule to be the same on the next session of the Academy, because I think Kenny's always got something up his sleeve, and he knows a lot of people. So the idea is it's kind of based on availability too. So when you want to break down specifics of different components, there's always an opportunity to learn there. And you don't have to be the expert. You don't have to understand every bit of it, right, Mark? But getting exposed to know that there's more to know, and that's probably the biggest. And then get your questions answered, because it's interactive. So you have questions, you ask, and everybody's learning here, so it's easy.
Yeah, we had some really, really cool guests. Like for driving, we had Doug Vanderbrink. He's the #2 instructor at the Porsche Academy. And actually, he's a coach. He's driven just about everything. We had Ben from Impact talking about safety. We had the tuner talking about tuning cars. We had Steve Shard from Forge Line Wheels talking about actually more about wheel construction than anything. Who else do we have? We had for data acquisition, we had Buddy Fay, is an engineer that I know he's a race engineer that's engineered just about every kind of race car, won multiple championships, and actually wrote the book on data. You heard a data acquisition book a while back, the Data Power. So I'm sure I missed a couple of people in there. But anyway, that's the kind of people I like to pull in, share their knowledge with everybody. So here comes. Here we go. I don't have a teleprompter. This is my teleprompter. So before closing, any of you guys have any other quick comments?
Yeah. Anyone who may be thinking about joining the Academy, take your ego and sit it over there, sit it next to sit it over there next to you, and be open minded and just be willing to learn. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and you'll just learn a lot. Just sit back and get your pen and pad ready, and just be ready to learn.
Cliff?
I have a couple things. One, excuse me. One is a direct example already. We've all got buddies and friends, and most of them are car people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had 2 of those people. They both knew I was in this academy. Both of them have called me and said, "Hey, what do you think?" And one was talking about shocks, and the other didn't know it, but he was talking about shocks and springs and suspension too. And there's, if they think that I know more because I've been associated with the academy, there's a proof in the pudding there.
Yeah.
And like Mark said earlier, if you're on the fence or if you're thinking about it, I've said in the past that an expensive set of tires is about what it costs to do a Kenny Brown Academy.
Yep.
And during the academy, we learned how we could make our tires last longer, and not by being wimpy drivers, but by setting the car up right.
Yeah.
So, I might be able to save the price of a set of tires just because of the academy, but actually the knowledge is so valuable. And yeah, and if these other guys who are stubborn we're all kind of set in our ways. But if they were to call just to ask my opinion, that means there's something there. And I got my value out of the class a lot. Just starting. Wait till next March when I get back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to smoke all those guys.
Hope so.
So, Tim, any closing comments?
I think I can play on that a little bit too. I think I mentioned that I wasn't sure my timing was right to participate. I was very excited about the concept of the first academy, but talking to Carrie and Kenny, I wasn't sure if the timing was right. The timing was right for me to focus. The timing was right for me to spend the admission to see. I was very curious, but I was really glad that I took the leap because I think we can all agree that we all enjoy our cars, and those cars cost a little bit of money. Whether you're paying for it or you're trying to make some updates, and that update is going to cost money. And if you go sit in a classroom and that's where your money goes, maybe your car's not doing anything at the moment. But I think it's important to understand that what Kenny tries to help us with is making sure that when we do spend that money, that we buy those tires that Cliff is talking about, that you know how to make them last longer, know how to use them properly so that you get the most out of them. You don't want to buy the wrong parts and then realize once they're on the car down the road that you probably should have gone a different direction. And it's not that Kenny's going to tell you what you should do or what you need to do, but he's going to help you understand enough to make your own decision about your choices. He's not here to tell you what your car needs. He's here to help you understand your car so you can figure out what it needs. And when you don't know enough yourself, that you can ask a question and you can ask and you'll get a good answer. So I think it's better to sit back and learn maybe what your next move is, and understand that you need to set some goals if you haven't already, and make a careful decision before you start spending more money on things that may not fix your problems. They may create more. I can vouch for that. And so if you're questioning it, at least get a consult.
Yep, that's a good point. I do quite a few of the 15-minute free consults every week, just because people need real information. I mean, there's so much misinformation out there, and I'm happy to do it. And of course, with our academy guys, they all know that I'm just a phone call away now. So that's kind of a cool thing. Well, listen, I really appreciate you guys taking the time this morning to share your thoughts on the inaugural Speed Therapy Academy.
See you,
And
Mark.
we'll be looking forward to, I think Carrie's talking about, we're going to have like maybe a once a month social session with the Academy people, just so we can kind of stay together. Also, one of the cool things we did right in the middle is I decided that I was going too fast. So we took a break one night and we had bench racing. Where everybody brought their favorite adult or non-adult drink, and we just bench raced for more than an hour. So that was kind of fun. It was a nice break from me going really fast, which I have a bad habit of doing. So listen, thank you guys for showing up. I really appreciate your comments.
Welcome.
And I think we will get back to, Carrie came up with her computer, so that means questions are on the way.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say one more thing about the Academy, and we'll move on because I know people are waiting for questions. Thanks, guys. And there's so many Academy members that show up on Cars and Coffee every week, too.
Yeah, that's true.
It's so cool. But anyway, the next session starts on the week of January 4th, and it will be 16 weeks. If you want to know more information about it, there's a link in the comments. We'll also be posting things on in the Speed Therapy Society group about the Academy as well. And you're always welcome to pick up the phone. You can we can set up a schedule to talk to Kenny, or you can call and talk to me, or one of our Kenny Brown support ambassadors, Amy, Brad, Bridget, or Rich. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say, but it's well worth the price of admission and the time that you have to take to go through it.
Yeah, I can say it was a lot of work for me. It was way more work than I thought, but I know it's I just couldn't skimp. I just had to try to get out as much as I could. So okay, let's hear some questions.
Okay, so questions. We have Chris Perigo, who is actually Steve Flattery's friend.
Oh,
Not Flattery.
Jim Flattery.
No, Steve Foley.
Steve Foley's friend.
Sorry. He says, is it better for a track car? Let's see. He's asking about X-Pipe. Is the X-Pipe better for a track car? He's understanding that it flows better.
Yeah, I mean, there's two schools of thought / theory. On one is for an H-pipe, and the other is for an X-pipe. For years, I've been using X-pipes. I think they work really well. They also help take like maybe a couple of dBs out of the sound level. On H-pipes, and there's another group of people that prefer H-pipes. The thing about an H-pipe is if you're putting one on yourself, run your car pretty hard without an H-pipe. And you get under it, and what you're going to find is somewhere on the exhaust pipes is going to be some blue spots. Wherever those blue spots are, that's where you want to put your H-pipe. But I mean, both are good. I like the X-pipes. I've been using them forever. So yeah, I mean, I like X-pipes.
Okay, so Wendy, she has a question later on, but there's a noise in her engine. She's going to ask you to diagnose, I think. So it looks like she has a winter project pulling the engine. Bob Jones, this is related to what you do to winterize your car. He recommended you might want to consider something to keep the varmints out of the engine compartment and chewing on things, or just generally making a mess.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real good point. Yeah, because we have seen people that they'll put their car up for the winter and they come back in the spring and here's mouse nest in the seat or mouse nest in the engine compartment or even raccoons. Critter protection. I think that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. And Clint Welker, we spoke about this I think last week as far as tie downs on your car. He said he needs a jacking reel made to be used with the FO tie downs. So I think he has an idea of how to put tie downs around the jacking rail or something. Clint, if you want to, why don't you give us a call in and give us a little more information on that. And then we have, regarding winterizing, I have a question. Is it okay to start the car every 2 weeks at least? It's not suggested in the manual. What do you?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. If you do, you want to get it up to full operating temperature and let it run at full operating temperature for a while. I mean, just starting it up for a little bit and shutting it off If you don't get to operating temperature, your cylinder is going to start plugging up in your plugs. So if you do that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of people do. It keeps your battery fresh. Oh, battery thing.
Yeah, I see you were.
You can get those little trickle chargers, the battery minders. That's something you do. Unhook your battery, put one of the little battery minders on there, so the battery stays fresh over the winter. But yeah, I'd start it up and just let it get all the way up to operating temperature and let it run at operating temperature. Before you turn it off, I'd hold it at a pretty fast idle for a minute or so, and then let it come back down to idle, and then shut it off.
Okay, and Steve Smith, regarding winterizing your car, he says, my car will be on jack stands so I can install some Kenny Brown products.
You go, guy. That's what I like to hear.
And Leroy says, overinflated tires for winter while sitting. What are your thoughts on that?
I never thought about it, but I don't see where that'll be a bad thing, because tires have a tendency, depending on the tire construction, because all tires are different. But some tires have a tendency that when they sit for long periods of time, they kind of get flat on the bottom. And that's when you pull it out and start driving, you hear this thump, 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 thump. But typically after they get warmed up, that'll go away. Overinflating them, that might be a good idea. I mean, I never thought of that, but I see nothing wrong with that.
Okay, and Steve Smith is asking, Rich, are you the guy to talk to in ordering parts? Yes, Steve, Rich is one of our main people ordering products, so feel free to give him a phone call if you have questions. If there's anything our techs can't answer, they will get Kenny involved, so you always get a correct answer. Okay, here is, this gentleman just says he used to use a no-code Genius battery charger in cycle mode. When I start it, it fires up right away.
There you go.
That's a good tip.
Yep.
And I can't see his name, so it says Facebook user.
Well, thank you for the information anyway.
Wendy, here she goes. I was putting antifreeze in, and when I revved up her car a little, she got a double knock sound when throttle closed. I'm thinking wrist pins, but Engine Shop says pull valve covers, check followers, lash adjusters, and cam phasers.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard for me to diagnose sounds and problems remotely. But somebody recommended, based on your description, to check the cams and followers. That's easy. That's easier than pulling the engine apart. I mean, that would be a good place to start. A lot of times, these cars, if you rev them up and the oil pressure kind of drops too quickly, then you'll get some clatter in the valves. Or it could be just pistons are getting tired. But if unless it's like a really continually bad sound that gets worse, I think I just try to diagnose this and just pay attention to it.
And Mark Peterson says that he wants to attend your academy class one day. So
Good for Mark.
that would be great, Mark. Is there any other questions coming in?
Okay, last call for questions.
I think that was, as far as I could see, that's our questions for the day. Anything else?
Well, cool. We're going to actually wrap up early for a change, which is okay with me, because I've been going like crazy for more than, how many weeks?
Yeah.
There's a lot of weeks.
And if we still have our academy members here, so as well, so if you want to shoot them a question, they're here. And again, thank you so much, Mark, Cliff, and Tim. And we really appreciate you joining us today. I know we have a number of other people that are going to be on our workshop on Monday.
Yeah, we have some
yeah.
other of our graduates are going to be on the workshop Monday evening. So yeah, if you haven't joined the workshops yet, you can still do that. Monday evening, we're going to do kind of like the wrap up on car setup and things like that. And then we have some more people from the academy to share their experience with you. The feedback I got is everybody really enjoyed it, and they like the opportunity to learn from my experience. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. And Mustangs right now seem to be, what I'm my main focus. But my background is before Mustangs, a lot of European sports cars. I ran a sports car shop for a long time, and in the 70s, I was racing Formula Vs, Super Vs, Formula Atlantic, and taking care of customers' cars. And went all the way up through, got into professional motorsports, and kind of like stayed there for the most part, although I do drop back and help people in club racing like NASA.
Okay, and James, we have a few more questions coming in. James Donas has asked, he has a couple of questions on Aero. So James, once you type those in, and if you think they're more of a 15-minute consult with Kenny, then we'll schedule a call. But if you want to ask right now, just type in your comments and he'll answer them.
I'll try to answer.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know everything, but I will share what I know.
Oh, and Mark Peterson asks, is 50 years old too old?
For what?
So for racing, for driving, for taking the academy, I'm not quite sure what he means.
No,
by that,
I
but 50 years old.
just talked to somebody just this week in a 15-minute consult he's just kind of starting out at 50 and with a GT350, and he's just loving it.
Uh-huh.
Paul Newman raced up until he was in his 60s, 70s.
Well, Joe Johnson, who from the academy, he is 84, I believe,
Yeah,
and he's still
Joe
running.
still drives.
He's beaten everybody on track.
Yeah, I mean he's out just he does a lot of track days. I mean I'm 72 and I still drive like crazy.
And
I like to
then-
embarrass the young guys.
We also have a question on, are the shirts available? I'm assuming you mean the academy shirts. The academy shirts are available to academy members only.
Yeah,
So it's very
they're
exclusive.
exclusive academy member shirts.
Yeah, I should probably just mention the price. It's pretty on the academy. It's pretty reasonable. It's 4 payments of $650 per month, and it's like Cliff said, it's like a set of tires. And he's probably going to save his tires just by taking the class by what he
Yeah, I
learned.
think based on
So-
what I learned from Cliff and what he learned from me, he's definitely going to get a lot more mileage out of his tires
Yeah.
coming up.
So it's definitely worth it. And this is actually the perfect time of year to take it. We think this is going to be the best class because it's what do you do in the winter?
Yeah.
What do you do during COVID?
Yeah.
Do you want to be prepared for spring?
This will just get you. This will give you an amazing foundation so that when the next driving season starts, whether it's a street car or a track car, you're going to have so much more knowledge and information. It's going to make your driving season just a total joy.
So anyway, if you want to talk about that, just give us a call. And here is a question on fuel stabilizer. Any preference for fuel stabilizer for winter storage?
Not really. I know there's a bunch of them out there. I really recommend products. I just I think any of them are going to be good. I would definitely stick with brand names, better brand names.
Okay, Mark Peterson was talking about, is 50 years too old for the class? Oh, no.
No, Joe Johnson just went through, and he's 84.
Yeah, and then we have, I think Mark or Tim were probably our youngest ones in the class.
Yeah.
So no, it's never too late to learn. And then we have, James was asking about Aero. He says, do you have any rules of thumb regarding suspension as you start moving into downforce upgrades? That's a good question.
Yeah, I think, without getting into academy stuff, I think if you start adding downforce, it depends if it's a little or a lot. If it's a little, typically you don't need to do much, but if you add a lot of downforce, like a big wing, like vented hood and splitter on the front, you might want to think about going up a little bit on spring rate, because going down the straightaway, that wing is going to push the back of the car down or the front of the car down. You just might want to think about spring rate, but it's a hard question to answer without knowing the car. But if you're putting more load down, just makes sense to go up a little bit on spring rate, and maybe if you got double adjustable shocks, maybe a click a bump. But that's something that you really have to work on. Something that we learn in Academy is like here's some parameters, but it's it's like adjustments at the track are a guessing game, and the more you do it, the more time you have to do it, then your guessing becomes a little bit better. But it's you just every track, every day, every driver is different, and what works one day might not work another. That's where you need to kind of understand your car and what it's telling you, and when you make adjustments, what you're looking for. I tell people never make an arbitrary adjustment. Any adjustment you make, you should be looking for a result. So many times people say that somebody in the paddock told them, oh, they needed to do this before they went on track. Well, it's like, what outcome are you looking for? That's kind of the important thing. If you need a specific outcome before you make an adjustment. But as far as aero, more spring rate. I know that like Formula One cars running incredibly high springs, but then they're generating enough downforce to drive on the ceiling.
Okay, and the question on the fuel stabilizer for winter storage came from Mary O'Keefe.
Oh, Mary, how are
and
you?
Mac, yeah, Mac passed away this year, but Mary and Mac they're wonderful friends. So hi, Mary. And let's see, we have another one. Somebody mentions that Steve Calistini would be a great guy to ask about age and participation as well. So Steve,
another one of our graduates.
Yeah, and he just started driving last year, I think. He started, I think maybe the year before did a one-track event, but last year he did.
He's hooked.
He is hooked.
He's totally hooked.
Yep. So anyway, I think that, let me check. Oh, James, you were talking about the Aero. He said he has a G-Stream wing.
Oh yeah, G-Stream wings are, they're one of the absolute best. I know because my late son Paul helped develop that wing. And it was designed by a NASA aerodynamicist, and it actually starts making downforce at about 40 miles an hour. In fact, you can actually run those wings pretty darn flat and still make a lot of downforce. But I definitely go up a little bit on spring rate.
Okay, and Brian West, who's one of our Academy members, can't believe how many are here. Do Cup 2s have to be kept above freezing for the winter?
Probably. That's a really good point. I should have brought that up. Racing tires, even like Cup 2s, Pirelli, Trofeo Rs, Corsas, anything that's like a racing track tire, they are engineered and designed to work in in 100-some degrees. They do not like cold weather. In fact, some brands of racing tires, if they get under 32 degrees, they'll, you drop them and they'll just fracture. They'll just like break. So I would keep any racing or track tire, I would keep in a heated garage and not let them get below. Actually, I think 40 is what the most tire manufacturers recommend. Don't get them below 40 degrees. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot that.
Yep. Okay, so let's see. And also, I mean, I saw Bob Jones was in here as well. Joe Johnson, Ryan West.
All our Academy inaugural graduates.
Yeah. They're still learning. So anyway, again, thank you so much, Mark, Cliff, and Tim. It was wonderful having you on. And if anybody's interested in the Academy, just give us a call and we can chat about it, see if it's right for you. It's not right for everybody. So
Yeah, and we can certainly even connect you up with some of our alumni. I guess we call them alumni, can't we? So some of our alumni.
Yeah. And what's interesting is we're close enough to them that we haven't even asked them if they'll talk to anybody. We just know they will. It's just like a family. It's really cool.
So, okay, with that, we got no more questions. We almost made it on time today. It's it's not bad though. Only 5 minutes over. That's pretty good for me. So with that,
this coming Saturday after Thanksgiving is going to be an
encore
encore presentation. So,
I need a rest. If there's anything in the past 36 Cars and Coffee that you'd like to see again, go ahead and send a note in. Post, I guess it's a post. Post it in Speed Therapy Society. And I think Brad's going to be in charge of coming up with which encore presentation to do. And if anybody wants to send some direction in, that'll be fine. We're all for it. So I'm going to take next weekend off and sleep, I think. I'm sort of getting pretty worn out.
yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Wendy, we will hold your question until the next Cars and Coffee, or just give us a call in.
Okay. With that, thanks the guys for coming, and everybody else. You can join us for Monday night, the last night of the workshop, or I'll be back in 2 weeks with another Cars and Coffee. And so you got questions, send them in to us through the Speed Therapy Society group. I'm getting
Anyway,
this. I'm
yeah.
getting this.
Happy Thanksgiving,
So
everyone.
yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and I'll see you in 2 weeks, but you'll see me next week.